seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you talk about how these series came to a head and what has been happening in this postseason for the Yanks, offensively, it hasn't been Aaron Judge.
Baseball is such a big win here. All you ask for, East Coast Monster City, West Coast Monster City, the biggest of biggest Titan superstars on both sides here, two mammoth fan bases. The entire country can buy into this one.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern.
A new week starts right here, right now, live on a Monday on the Early Line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And what a Monday it is going to be. It's a sports equinox on this Monday. All 4 of the major men's professional sports leagues in North America in action on this Monday as we round out week number 8 of the NFL season. The NBA into its second week, or about to be. A World Series game tonight. Game number 3 for the first time in the Bronx. And, of course, the action on the continues. And, Donnie, on this Monday, I am more excited than most because of what was the most exciting Sunday slate in the National Football League for the first 2 months of this season. A wild early window with a ton to react to. A Sunday night football game where statements were made in a Hail Mary outside the nation's capital in the battle of 1 versus 2, and maybe the wildest ending with so much to take from it between the Commanders and the Bears. This is going to be a very fun 3 hours.
No doubt about it. Armchair quarterback, get ready for the hottest of all hot takes. The New York Jets front and center here. But I got to tell you, the Toilet Bowl down in Landover, Maryland, which is known as Northwest Stadium, which is a terrible name for a stadium. They have a terrible name for their team. They have horrible uniforms, but they got a damn good quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and we're ready to get it going, Ben.
Yeah, they do. Speaking of terrible, horrible, how about Tyreek Stevenson? I mean, listen, we will talk all about it here over these next 3 hours. DRS. I mean, listen, that's just, it was one of the funniest plays the history of the NFL has ever seen. We will talk about it in just a matter of moments. But we start with Sunday night in Santa Clara. DRS, from a brand perspective, from a nostalgic rivalry perspective, huge marquee matchup on Sunday night between the 49ers and the Cowboys. These two organizations dominated the NFC in the 80s and 90s. Both expected to factor into the conference contender race this season. Neither performing all that well to start, but San Francisco holds off Dallas to get back to 500, 30-24. The 49ers are now 4-4. The Cowboys fall a game below 500 after the bye, now at 3-4. Again, a single-score game, but DRS San Francisco routed Dallas in the third quarter. They were down at the break. They outscored Dallas 21-zip in the third to pull away, and they hold on late.
Third string running back, Isaac Guerrero, 14 carries, 85 yards, and a touchdown. The reason I bring him up right away is because wouldn't the Dallas Cowboys love to have a third string running back that can actually play some football? Because the third string running backs for the Dallas Cowboys can't play football. It's simple. 19 carries, 56 yards, 2.9 yards per carry on one side, 36 carries, 223 on the other side. Dak Prescott can't stop turning the football over. Brock Purdy was clean from the pocket. That's why the 49ers won. That's why they're 4-4 right in the thick of that NFC West race.
Dak Prescott an interception in the opening half. Not much happened from it. An interception early in the second half, sandwiched in between two touchdown drives by the 49ers. Brock Purdy playing clean and efficient football. George Kittle finding the end zone as well. Isaac Guerrero and Purdy scampering to pay dirt, utilizing their legs. All right, now to the Hail Mary. Outside of the nation's capital in Landover, Maryland, between the Commanders and the Bears. As time expired and Jaden Daniels had all the time in the world to set up a Hail Mary, he throws one nearly 65 air yards right in front of the pylon. Tyreek Stevenson tries to make a play. He tips it up into the waiting arms of Washington's Noah Brown in the end zone. 52-yard Hail Mary victory as the Commanders knock off the Bears 18-15. The fact Jaden Daniels even played in the game was remarkable. His final 52 yards of a 326-yard day, even more outstanding. The Commanders are 6-2 somehow, some way.
And here we are once again saying, oh, that number one overall pick should have been the right guy, should have been the number two guy, which was Jaden Daniels. He was great with a rib injury through 38 times, 326, and that miracle touchdown at the end of the game. They cranked up the running game, and this was such an odd game. Washington seemingly blowing out the Chicago Bears, only to see the Bears take the lead late. But we are going to talk a little bit later in the show about Matt Eberflus. Your job as a coach is to just stay out of the way and put your players in the best possible position to win and let the chips fall. He didn't do that yesterday. He was a disaster as a head coach who's going to bring up so many things in the offseason where you have a team that's ready to win now. Is Matt Eberflus the guy? He's not.
Offseason, today in Hallis Hall, he should be gone. Shane Waldron should be walking out the door right behind him. And if you want to talk about Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback for Chicago, who was taunting Commanders fans as the ball was snapped on the final play of the game, to realize he was completely out of scheme, ran back in to try to do something about it, and was the guy to barely tip the ball, but instead of knocking it down, tipped it up into the hands of Noah Brown. People need to be held accountable today in the Windy City. I think a lot of people should lose their job. You know who else should no longer have a job? A 40-year-old quarterback named Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets in an absolute must-win game, but one we expected. All right, it might not be pretty, but they would go to Foxborough against the 1-6 Patriots and at least win the game outright. The New York Jets lose. Ramondre Stevenson, under 30 seconds left, 4th and goal from the 1, powers across the pylon as the Patriots win their second game of the year to send the Jets to 2-6. New York season that had Super Bowl aspirations is done by the end of October. The Pats win 25-22.
And how about this? What is Devontae Adams now going to get traded to the Kansas City Chiefs this week and get their wide receiver, which they weren't able to trade in division? We'll get to that in just a little bit, but this was an utter embarrassment, which to me, I thought the Jets would win. I thought the Jets would cover. But from a content perspective, I was actually hoping they lost this game because of how much fun it would be to talk about today and this week, and we got everything we needed to know. And by the way, Aaron Rodgers, 223, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Your starting tailback went 16 for 80 for 5 yards per carry. Garrett Wilson, 5 for 113, and you lost this game. This should have been 22-3 as a final, but you couldn't come up with stops. You couldn't have any worse special teams possible than the New York Jets get. And Jacoby Brissett comes into that football game resurrected from the grave and leads an unbelievable touchdown drive. You got to be kidding me, Jet. The Jets, with all that talent and all that money spent, are sitting here at 2-6, and the season is over.
Listen, the NFL is too good. Those final three stories, A&M comes back with Marcel Reed to beat LSU in a huge SEC top 15 game. Ohio State ahead of the Penn State game. Listen, they were not great against Nebraska. The Huskers show some resolve after getting blown out in Bloomington. And Shohei Ohtani injured his shoulder but expected to play in game 3. That's that. Now let's focus on the NFL. Jameis Winston, of all people, leading a dramatic comeback in victory against the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns win outright as more than a touchdown underdog against the hottest team in the NFL, the Ravens, who entered on a 5-game win streak. Jameis is the quarterback, throws for 3 tuds, and the Browns win 24.
Stefanski, not a great Monday. Yes, they won. He's going to be happy. He didn't call any plays yesterday. And also, I need to know the interworkings of that organization that we're saying that we had, just because of the pay, we had to keep a quarterback in who was absolutely sabotaging our entire franchise. Winston comes in. You knew he was going to throw a lot. Threw 41 times, 3 touchdown passes, leads a comeback drive against what I thought the best team in the AFC. It's amazing what happens when you have a quarterback that is a gunslinger mentality. Things can change, and they did yesterday.
Oh, they certainly did, DRS. The Cleveland Browns were down in the final few minutes after the Ravens, who were trailing, took a lead with a Derrick Henry touchdown. Jameis Winston connects with Cedric Tillman from 38 yards out for the game-winning touchdown. Still under a minute. The Ravens had an opportunity to drive down the field. Lamar got them in position, but unable to convert. Snaps a 5-game skid for Cleveland. Snaps a 5-game win streak for Baltimore, who has now lost outright twice this year as more than a touchdown favorite. Some concern for the flock? Maybe. Sunday night up next.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game where it was the worst player screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. See, here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I promise there is so much reaction coming your way. Takeaways from the Jets falling to 2-6, the end of the Aaron Rodgers era, by the second full month of his time in New York. We will talk about what happened yesterday outside of D.C. in Landover, Maryland, in the Hail Mary in just a moment. But Sunday Night Football, an important one, DRS, between the 49ers and the Cowboys. Two teams we always expect to have double-digit wins, varying levels of expectation for what they will do in the postseason. But for San Francisco, we think the 49ers as a Super Bowl frontrunner at all times. They entered last night 3-4. The Cowboys entered last night after a bye in even 500, and Dallas had won all 3 games this year away from the Star. Well, after last night, it's the Cowboys below 500 and the 49ers back to an even win percentage. 4-4 for San Francisco after a 30-24 win over the Cowboys. The 49ers do cover as a 5.5-point home favorite. DRS, they have won 4 games this year. They have covered in all 4 games as the favored side, and the total has gone over in all 4 victories for San Francisco this season.
Good win for the 49ers, another bad loss for the Dallas Cowboys. But we saw this coming all along. This season was set up for, what do you have on offense, guys? Well, we have CeeDee Lamb, who's fantastic. We have Dak Prescott, and absolutely nothing else on that offense to help us. We laughed all offseason when the Dallas Cowboys said they were all in and refused to get a running back. Oh, but Donnie, Rico Dowdle was sick before the game. So what? 19 carries for 56 yards, 2.9 yards per carry, and the Dallas Cowboys still, Ben, had the lead at the half, 10-6, only to get beat in the third quarter, 21-0. And don't give me Dak Prescott's 243 with 2 touchdowns. Late, insignificant touchdowns. But when the game was actually on the line and you had the drive, how about a nice 4 and out there? Because what? Oh, Kevontae Turpin couldn't bring in a ball down the sideline 30 yards down the field. It's Kevontae Turpin. What do you expect a punt returner to do on a sideline toe tip miracle catch that you were going to have? This is the Dallas Cowboys squarely on the shoulders of Jerry Jones, who's a terrible GM. They were all in this year, but forgot to go all in and get any players to help out that offense. Embarrassing.
You know, DRS, and that's probably the main takeaway. It's not that what the Cowboys did last night was not unexpected. It's that exactly what happened last night is what we expected. 2.9 yards per pop on the ground last night, less than 60 rushing yards. Rico Dowdle was a late scratch out of nowhere before Sunday Night Football, so Ezekiel Elliott and the ghost of him is your lead back. That's what you expected. That's what the Cowboys set up this season to be. Mike Zimmer's defense is atrocious. They are still injured on that defensive front. The 49ers scored 21 straight consecutive points in the third quarter despite trailing at the break. And again, Dak Prescott's going to throw for a lot of yards. He might toss a couple of touchdowns. He's also going to turn the football over. Multiple interceptions. The key for San Francisco, DRS, with the overwhelming amount of offensive injuries that the 49ers are facing right now, is for Brock Purdy to be the clean and efficient quarterback we had seen in his first 2 seasons in the NFL. Last night, he did not turn the football over, threw a touchdown pass, ran one in, and somehow, some way, the 49ers continue to find success on the ground without Christian McCaffrey. Not Jordan Mason last night, the rookie out of Louisville via Wisconsin, Isaac Guerendo, over 80 yards on the ground and a rushing score as well.
Yeah, no, it was impressive. Guys have to step up if you want to resurrect your season. You're waiting for the cavalry to come back, per se, for the San Francisco 49ers. Get a couple guys healthy on the defense. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey might be on the horizon. But when you're down to your third-string running back, for him to perform with 6.1 yards per carry through 14 carries and give you that jolt you needed, because even though Mason carried 6 times for 18 yards, he left the game with a shoulder injury. He didn't look all that explosive. So you go to the third-string guy, and he gets the job done. And also in the passing game, hey, look at this. We don't have Brandon Ayuk. Somebody's got to step up. How about George Kittle? 6 for 128 and a touchdown. Impressive night here. Deebo Samuel fighting off pneumonia this week. 4 for 71. Had a couple big catches as well. This is a game where you had to win if you were the Dallas Cowboys. You were off your bye. You were embarrassed. You played decent football in the first half, and the bottom fell out in the second half, and you just couldn't make enough plays. Now, the one thing you got to say about Dak Prescott is if you're betting his touchdown props, fantastic. Maybe his yardage prop, hey, that's fantastic. But the game before for the Detroit Lions, he couldn't do anything in the fourth quarter. So, hey, here's this, Cowboys fans. Hey, Dak Prescott's fantastic once again in meaningless football time at the end of the game. But when you needed him to step up, when you got the football back with one more touchdown drive, as I said, a quick, meek 4 and out, and the game was over.
A quick, meek 4-and-out DRS that took 22 total seconds by the time on 4th and 10 from their own 25, Dak Prescott's 4th consecutive pass fell incomplete. That's what's crazy about this game, and we have seen the Cowboys do this a few times this year. They were getting routed by the Ravens at home week number 3. Baltimore was up 28-3. The Cowboys came back, made it a one-possession game, maybe had some life, but ultimately fell short. They're getting routed 27-10 at the end of the third quarter, despite holding a lead in the halftime locker room, and they do make it a game somehow, some way, but when the significant stage matters most, they fall short. But, Donnie, here's what's so damning for Dallas is we know the Cowboys weren't going to play in the NFC Championship game. See the last 30 years of NFL postseason pedigree to understand that track record. But we thought this would be at least a double-digit win team to earn a playoff berth. Dallas is 3-4. All 3 wins have come away from the Star, where, by the way, they entered this year on a 16-game home regular season win streak. Donnie, the Cowboys are in danger of missing the postseason, flat out and simple.
No, and yes, they are, because we bank on them being very good, and particularly Dak Prescott, a good regular season quarterback. You take a look at the schedule coming up. Oh, it's at the Falcons, resurrecting their season. They might look like the leaders now in the NFC South, followed by the Philadelphia Eagles, who look like one of the better teams now in the NFC. And after that, the Battle of Texas, which is against the Texans. And then remember the lowly Commanders of a couple years ago? Oh, that's an easy win for the Cowboys at the Commanders at that point. My goodness, it is going to get ugly. And how many radio hosts will be fired in Dallas over the next 3 weeks for asking Jerry Jones why his team is terrible, Ben?
Just happy he doesn't own the SportsGrid network on this Monday so he can slander away. The 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals all at 4-4 atop the NFC West. San Francisco, though, the minus money favorite. Second best price in the NFC, behind maybe the best team in the NFL. That's the Detroit Lions. But next, plenty more. Aaron Rodgers, you're up.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst flare screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. See, here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like this that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
A moment that I've been waiting for at least 16, 17 hours to be here on the early line on this Monday when Ramondre Stevenson, with just 22 ticks remaining in regulation, plunges across the pylon for the game-winning touchdown for the New England Patriots, who entered as a one-win football team, handed the New York Jets its 5th consecutive loss, so both teams are 2-6. The Patriots, a win 25-22 outright as a 7-point underdog. Total of 41.5 goes over. Drake May was injured in the opening half. A head injury, missed the remainder in concussion protocol. Jacoby Brissett is the guy to lead the game-winning touchdown drive to put the Patriots in front of the Jets. And here we are, DRS. The Aaron Rodgers experiment since March of 2023 has been an utter disaster, a total failure. It's hard to set the Jets franchise back. He has done that single-handedly in a season that began with Super Bowl expectations and maybe AFC title aspirations has come to a close by the end of October. You make your bed, you better lay down in it. The New York Jets have done just that.
They have done that, but also, like, I love the like exterior shots you can look at with the New York Jets, because let's just take Aaron Rodgers out of the equation. Let's take the defense out of the equation. Let's let firing Robert Saleh out of the equation here. If Greg Zuerlein was an average kicker in the NFL, Ben, they have 3 more wins on their season.
For sure.
So again, we don't get to point any fingers at the kicker, because really the kicking game, it is all on Aaron Rodgers. But now let's get back to the defense here. Zuerlein misses that 44-yard field goal, which went from 16-14 to 19-14, which you saw this game played out. That would have been massive. You see a 14-play, 61-yard drive for a field goal for the New England Patriots, which gets them back to the lead here at 17-16. Terrible job by your defense. Come up with a stop against one of the sluggish offenses in the NFL. But you did have a counter punch by the Jets the very next drive, Ben. 16 was it 16 or 10 plays, 76 yards, and a touchdown to take the lead. I believe there was a delay a game on the 2-point conversion, which pushed it back, which if you were to get that would have been massive, but you didn't. And then you say, hey, this New England Patriots team has to go the length of the field on my high-powered / high-priced defense. That can't happen. And not for a field goal, for a touchdown. So you get 12 plays, 76 yards, and a touchdown drive. That is absolutely outrageous. That can't happen, and it did. So all the fingers, the kicking game, Aaron Rodgers, the offense, the defense, it all went wrong in one day, and that just encapsulates exactly what we've been laughing about for the Jets, because it's not just one thing that happens. It's a calamity of errors by that entire organization, which you lost to one of the most uninspiring football teams at home, whose only hope this year was, let's see what Drake May has, and he got knocked out of the game early, and you still lost that game.
It was Jacoby Brissett to quarterback that drive, to find Kayshon Boutte a bunch of times near the pylon to get them down. And then on 4th and goal from the 1, it's Ramondre Stevenson to power through. And Donnie, yesterday, if you were watching the witching hour on Red Zone, for how wild the final 30 minutes of the early slate were, it was incredible. But in this spot specifically in Foxborough, it almost felt like, all right, Aaron Rodgers leads that 10-play, 4.5-minute drive. Braylon Allen dives across the pylon. The New York Jets have looked awful. They look terrible. There's not much confidence or optimism you can build from beating the Patriots and not covering. But they won a game that they had to. That's how I felt, right? Under 3 minutes remaining. Jacoby Brissett really going to lead a 2.5-minute drive against this Jets defense that should at least bow up, even if they give up some yardage. Oh, man. And Donnie, that's the interesting thing. For the last few weeks, we have pointed at one specific individual or a couple of things and said that's how the New York Jets lost the football game. In London, Aaron Rodgers threw multiple interceptions, 3 to be exact. They have been undisciplined. They have been poorly coached. All right, you fire Robert Saleh. Jeff Ulbrich is now your interim head coach. He's still the defensive guy. They'll be ready to go. The New York Jets in this 5-game losing skid have not covered in any of the 5 losses. They have gone over in 3 straight. The defense specifically has allowed 23 or more points in all 3 of these last games. And Donnie, yesterday, the New York Jets did something in the NFL we haven't seen in over a decade, holding their opponent to less than 250 total yards, not turning the football over, and still found a way to lose a football game. That's what the Jets do. They actively find ways to lose.
Yes, and that leadership reflects that at this point right now. Who is the leader of that franchise? Is it Woody Johnson? Is it the general manager? And also, we have so many things to talk about this week because the trade deadline is next week. And don't give me, let's beat the Texans and make the playoffs at this point. You might have to blow this up. Crazy.
Updated outlook for Gang Green elsewhere around the NFL. Next.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst player screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. See, here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like this that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, so let's look at where the New York Jets are after falling to 2-6. Obviously, you know my thoughts, DRS. I feel like you're pretty much in line. The season is over for the New York Jets. They are not going to make the postseason. We will see a 13-year playoff drought continue into 14 seasons. Is there anything that you could point to for anybody out there that maybe is either a Jets fan or still has belief in New York to have an outside look at the postseason? Is it even worth a sprinkle on a plus 570 price for Gang Green to see the playoffs?
No, there's no price because usually when you're 2-6, Ben, you say, all right, am I in a division that I'm only a game or two back at this point because everybody is struggling? No, that's not the case. The Buffalo Bills look fantastic at 6-2. Yep. So then you're throwing yourself into, can we get into the wild card race? Now, granted, you write the obituaries early in the season. A win or two, you start to come back. We're going to do this multiple times with the Cincinnati Bengals. Hey, they're dead. Hey, they're back in it. Now they're dead again because that seventh wild card, there's a lot of bad football teams. But you look at the 2-6 Jets and say, well, how do they clean this up at this point? I don't know if you do. You're losing every which way possible, which is coaching, which is quarterback play, which is special teams play. And when that happens, how do you expect after a 2-6 start to turn the season around and win like the next 4 out of 5 games? You know how you do that? You don't. Because your team is flawed from the start this year. If they made those mistakes in the first 8 games, they're going to continue to make those same mistakes, Ben. Nothing's going to change.
DRS, I mentioned how the NFL or how the New York Jets made NFL history for the first time in more than a decade yesterday, becoming the first team since the 2012 campaign to hold their opponent to less than 250 and not turn the football over and still lose a game outright. The New York Jets find ways to lose. They were penalized 8 times yesterday. More issues along the offensive line. Somehow, with all the sweeping changes we have seen in this franchise this season, Greg Zuerlein still has a job. If he does, week number 9, he's got something over Aaron Rodgers, who wears the pants in that organization, because the Jets now have to play in their second short week Thursday night football game of this year. Not easy for a 40-year-old quarterback, and it's a pick'em price against the Texans. I know Houston has to travel on this short week, but Donnie, I am done expecting the New York Jets to win football games, despite what the odds makers on FanDuel are trying to tell me.
You know what the best part about this is too, Ben? Do you remember when they made the trade for Davante Adams? And, you get a better player than what you had on your roster. Exactly. So you're saying to yourself, all right, maybe that helps. But I kept saying, the move the Jets made was for a wide receiver. That's the last thing the Jets needed was another wide receiver in there. It almost made no sense. And it's so funny because you might have said, hey, Donnie, see Davante Adams against the Steelers, 7 catches, 86 yards and a touchdown. Did you see Davante a week later against the Patriots, 8 catches for 110 and 2 scores? Boy, he was the right move, even though they're not winning. He's insignificant in this offense because you already had a number 1 wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, who just might be better than Davante is right now. It's hilarious. The calamity is so much fun to watch. It's literally a clown car out there.
It is a great point, Donnie. And we said that after the trade for Davante Adams. Does he kick? No. Does he block? No. Does he help in run support? No. He is the least of your issues. So if he is going to move the needle, if he is going to make a positive impact to get this New York Jets team back to winning ways, then they got to be putting up 35 plus per game. He and Garrett Wilson need to be in the century mark. It has not happened for this New York Jets organization. So there is where the season stands for Gang Green. 6.5 is the updated win total. It was 9.5 entering the year, and the over had the heavy juice. Expecting Aaron Rodgers to lead the Jets to the postseason at bare minimum. What the future holds for the Jets, and I've said this a few times, DRS, I guess it's hard to say that all that you have put in and invested into Aaron Rodgers has set your franchise back, when the Jets have already done this twice in the last decade and failed miserably with Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson trying to draft a quarterback early after losing a bunch. This is a postseason drought that is now extended to 13 years and more than likely 14 at the end of this. But what I do know is that Aaron Rodgers has not made your organization any better. This investment into him and having him call the shots has left your organization in a terrible, terrible spot. And if you fired Robert Saleh to make him the scapegoat, so at least they would be a little bit more disciplined under their interim head coach, Jeff Ulbrich, 8 penalties yesterday against New England. We must move on. We could talk about the Jets for 2.5 more hours, but now we need to get to maybe the most exciting, dreadful, terrific, awful, depending on how you feel about the ending yesterday outside the nation's capital. In Landover, Maryland, a matchup of 1 versus 2 to even see Jaden Daniels, the second overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, was rather shocking. He had not practiced really all week, came out for a little bit on Friday, but we got word that he would start in this game against the number 1 overall selection in Caleb Williams. And Jaden Daniels made his impact throughout, and especially at the end. As time expires, Washington down by 3 after Roschon Johnson plunges across the pylon under a minute to put Chicago up by 3 points. Time expires. He's under no pressure. He lets all of his wide receivers get down there. Tyreek Stevenson is jawing with fans in the stands for the Commanders. Bears fans sitting there near the goal line are saying, get back. The play has started. Get back over there. So Tyreek Stevenson decides, oh, okay, I'll try to go make a play. Tips the ball up and into the waiting arms of the Commanders wide receiver, Noah Brown, in the end zone. A Hail Mary victory for Washington. Hail to the Commanders indeed. They win 18-15 on one of the wildest plays you'll ever see in the National Football League.
Incredible calamity at the end, but also, Ben, let's get back to the point that the Chicago Bears were getting throttled for 98% of this game and somehow miraculously took a lead at the end. Say something for the coaches, which is going to be nice, which I'm going to get angry with in just a few moments. They had that team battled back and ready to go, and this team was believing in each other, but the head coach had no idea how to close it out. It's like having a wonderful starting pitching performance, which means that my starter went 8 innings, and instead of bringing in the closer, I try to bring in the single-A guy, and he blows the lead late in the game. Let's get to what actually happened on that last drive, because that's my focus here. But I'm going to get to a play in this game, too, which was hilarious in itself. But when you're in Hail Mary range, right, Ben, I don't understand why the defenses do this. Now, do you want to run a zero blitz man on the outside with no single safety high? No, you don't want to do that. But what you want to do is say, I'm just going to make it a little bit harder. The play before the Hail Mary was so egregious and embarrassing that I have no idea what they were doing. You basically said, we're going to play Hail Mary defense twice. If they want to get whatever yards they want, who cares, as long as they don't score a touchdown, which put them in range for a Hail Mary. Now, granted, you still shouldn't be able to get the Hail Mary. It's a tough play to pull off. But the fact that you rushed 3 players, and the best part about Matt Eberflus, he's a defensive coordinator. Ben, he had a spy as his 4th guy out there, if Jaden Daniels is going to run 75 yards through 19 players to score a touchdown all by himself. It's so simple, Ben. If you rush 4 players up front, and then you have the linebacker who has no job in the middle of that field because a dump-off pass doesn't matter at that point. You bring him on a delayed blitz. The quarterback doesn't have time to step up or stand up in the pocket. He's probably not even going to get that pass off. You let him do whatever he wanted out there to allow him to throw a pass deep, which still should have been knocked down, and it didn't happen. But 2 ridiculous errors. The play before the Hail Mary, and then calling a 3-man rush which had 17 seconds in the pocket to throw that football, and it ends up in a touchdown.
With a spy! With a spy. Let the injured Jaden Daniels take off. Scamper for 12 yards. Who cares? Donnie, I tweeted out something very similar. I will never understand in Hail Mary situations, obvious Hail Marys, not, hey, there's 7 seconds left. They can throw it 15 yards on a quick out route and get into better field position with 2 seconds remaining on the clock. But obvious Hail Marys, final play of the game. I will never understand rushing 3. At least bring 4. But maybe bring 5, because this is how football works. With 11 guys on the field, the quarterback being 1 and 5 offensive linemen. At most, the offense can send down 5 receivers. At most. So even if you bring 5, you have an additional defender back there.
Yeah.
And if you bring 5, you put the quarterback under pressure like you do for the entirety of the game, as that is your intention and goal. And he can't have his wide receivers run 50-plus yards down the field. You tuned in the right place on this Monday. More next.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst player screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. So here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Continued reaction to the Hail Mary finish yesterday outside of D.C. In Landover, Maryland, the Commanders beat the Bears 18-15. In DRS, I think if you're if you're the Chicago coaching staff on the offensive side, maybe the Hail Mary is a blessing in disguise because it covers up how dreadful, awful you were in the final minute and a half in your goal line decision. Doug Kramer. We'll get to that in just a second. Back to the idea of the Hail Mary. Back to the idea of it. As we were saying, put pressure on the quarterback as you intend to do. Oh, guys, well, it's easier to say that after the fact. They also had 8 guys back there, and they should have been able to make a play. Go watch the end of the Texans and Colts game when Houston brought at least 5 guys to get to Anthony Richardson. He was sacked. Game was over. Go back to the ending of a great NFC North divisional duel a week ago. Aaron Glenn, Detroit's defensive coordinator, brings 5 guys. Sam Darnold is sacked. Game is over. And even if you do not record the sack, you pressure the offensive line and quarterback, and you do not allow all 5 wideouts to get down the field 50-plus yards in a span of 5, 6, 7 seconds, however long Jaden Daniels had yesterday. It felt like it was 4 minutes to sit back there and to let his guys go. And yes, there were some Bears fans very angry. No hold was called on the Commanders' offensive line. If you're rushing 3 guys and you have a spy, the referees are not going to give you a bailout flag.
Yeah, I don't care if the offensive line got handcuffs and just handcuffs the Bears. That's what happens here. In the middle of it, yes, the deflection could happen at that point, but it never should have.
Right.
Instead of having the spy, that guy should have just been a delayed blitzer. 4 guys up on the line of scrimmage. Your rush is a normal pass rush. You wait 3 seconds, then you bring the delay blitz. He can't run around, and he's probably going to end up either A, getting sacked or being flushed out of the pocket, making a bad throw that goes out of the end zone or too short. When you let a professional quarterback sit there and say, all right, let me measure this throw just to get it right and hit it around the goal line, they did that yesterday. But also, the Hail Mary, now we can move on to that. You're on the goal line, and you hand off to a fat, basically, offensive lineman in the biggest spot when, they couldn't run the football. DeAndre Swift only had 18 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown here. You can't hand it off to a running back who would just plow into the end zone and score a touchdown there. You can't make this many decisions. You're now 4-3, and you shouldn't be there. That was a massive loss yesterday for the Chicago Bears, and it wasn't that the team didn't play hard. They played absolutely hard and hung around. For your coach just to be a knucklehead at the wrong times yesterday is unacceptable.
Doug Kramer is a backup offensive lineman that they used as a fullback. You want him to block? Fine. Roshan Johnson is 6'3", 240. He was the guy that finally scored. Give him the football. DeAndre Swift brought you back in the game. Give him the football. Matt Eberflus, he should be gone. Shane Waldron, he should be walking right behind him. I'm not even a Bears fan. I mean, I still can't believe it. And it turned out that it didn't even cost them the game, those offensive decisions. So now Matt Eberflus, the guy responsible for the defensive schemes. Donnie, we have to mention Tyreek Stevenson. It's a clip that, of course, has caught fire and gone viral on social media. You have seen it. Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback for Chicago, jawing with fans, talking smack to Commanders fans in the stands near the end zone as the ball was snapped. Not pre-play, as the ball was snapped. One of my favorite images potentially ever from an NFL game is Bears fans sitting right behind the end zone pointing at Tyreek. The play is happening. That they snap the ball, they hiked it, get back over there. And so he gets back over there. He tries to swat at it, misses. It deflects off his hand up into the air and to Noah Brown. I mean, truly one of the most comical plays in the history of the NFL. But Bears fans are not laughing on this Monday morning.
DBs always make terrible plays like that, too. Being a wide receiver and being in that spot a few times here, Ben, I was always the guy that went behind the pack hoping to pick up scraps. And every once in a while, it does work out for you, just like, Ben, in November in the mid-1990s in that 1998 season, last game of the year, BWS, I caught a deflected pass in the end zone to win a football game. Always go behind the mask. DBs are there for a reason. They can't judge passes. They just tip them up in the air and get those nice little easy touchdowns. That was an easy touchdown, too. I mean, it wasn't even like a wild thing. Just flipped up in the air. Oh, look at this. Let me just catch it and be in here. Crazy.
And Jaden Daniels, even with the injured rib, threw that football. He threw it. I mean, it was snapped from the 48-yard line, but he threw it from his own 35, 65 yards in the air. And, oh, by the way, the Offensive Rookie of the Year race, it's done. Jaden Daniels has won the award. He's minus 450. He should be minus 4,500. I mean, it would have to be drastically different at the end of this year to be the case. Caleb wasn't great yesterday. 36 yards in the opening 3 quarters. He threw for nearly 100 in the fourth and was pretty solid. Jaden Daniels has won the game. He has the moment in the direct head-to-head, the Hail Mary, but threw for 326 yesterday as well with an injured rib and still was versatile utilizing his legs.
Yeah, you know what? What a gamer, man. You are a rookie. You didn't get to prepare as much as you wanted. You wanted to fight for that team. I thought he shouldn't be playing in that football game to enter into it, but the fact that they let him throw 38 times and also many scrambles, which included 8 for 52 yards, then the Hail Mary at the end, that kid is an absolute gamer. That thing, should I say, that player, he can change your franchise hopes, and it looks like it's already changed for the best, and he's only a rookie here.
The Commanders are a win away from going over their win total. The Commanders are a minus 290 favorite from making the postseason. Not sure they're going to hold off the Eagles in the NFC East, despite having the best record at this moment. But Washington is going to the playoffs because of Jaden Daniels in a defense that has bended a few times this year, but does not break. Meanwhile, the Bears are 4-3. Their 4 wins, 3 of them at home, but their 4 wins against teams that have a combined record right now after 8 weeks of 7-23. Would have been a huge one on the road yesterday. Instead, they come up short. More around the NFL next.
Look, Aaron Rodgers, it does seem like he really enjoys, people like us, Vinny, talking about him.
I don't know what's going on here with Aaron Rodgers. I think there's some frustration settling in, and the Jets were not supposed to be this bad of a defense, right? They've had a lot of injuries. Maybe that's the thing here. Robert Saleh's influence is there. I know they have their defensive coordinator running things, but now he's distracted.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Did they talk about the play they ran at the end of the game when it was the worst player screen I've ever seen in the history of basketball? No. So here's what you got to do, Sherwood. I respect you. You're fantastic. But damn it, don't blame the officials. When you have a game like that close, there's about 100 or 1,000 different things you could have done differently that could have won you the game.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
So the Commanders and Bears game was flexed to the 4:25 p.m. Eastern time window in the hopeful 1 versus 2 that we thought for most of the week. Why did we flex it? Jaden Daniels isn't even going to play. He does, and of course, it lived up to even our wildest of expectations in terms of drama. The game that had to be moved up because of it was also an intriguing interconference matchup. The Eagles and the Bengals. Cincy, after an 0-3 start, had won 3 of its last 4. The Eagles are 2 games were 2 games above 500 entering, but weren't really feeling all that optimistic about where they stood. Now, very different story. Philadelphia goes into Cincinnati, wins by 20, 37-17, outright as a 2.5-point underdog. Total of 47.5 does go over. DRS, the Birds have won 3 straight games coming out of the bye. Yesterday, more greatness out of Saquon Barkley, 108 yards on the ground. He's had at least 100 scrimmage yards in 6 of 7. And Jalen Hurts, clean football, 3 rushing touchdowns. A big win for the Birds. Philadelphia is 5-2.
Huge win. And also, understand this, the ebbs and flows in the NFL last week. I knew this was going to be a tough game for the Eagles coming into it. I said, boy, they got T. Higgins on one side, Jamar Chase on the other. Still got Joe Burrow as a very good quarterback. I wonder how the Eagles defense will stand up because they've been playing very good against bad quarterbacks. Let's see what they get this. When I heard that T. Higgins had that quadricep injury on Friday, right away you knew he wasn't playing. So I said there's no excuse for the Philadelphia Eagles to go in and play a team with a wretched defense and one single player on offense outside of Joe Burrow. You got to win this game. And I'm driving home yesterday. It's 10-3 Cincinnati with a 54-yard field goal from a very good field goal kicker that if he makes it, it's a double-digit lead and up in smoke the Eagles' game plan goes. Missed that field goal. Jalen Hurts leads a touchdown drive. They tied up at the break, and boy, did they hit the gas pedal and broke the back of that Cincinnati Bengals defense in that second half. Saquon was tremendous, as you said. Jalen Hurts, 16 of 20, 236, a touchdown, and yes, 3 rushing touchdowns. Even though you only threw the ball 20 times, look at your wide receivers. 6 catches and 5 catches, 85 yards and 84 yards. This team has a lot of talent, but now Vic Fangio's defensive imprint is starting to play out now, and the Eagles are a much better defensive team than they were to start the season, and the offense now getting a little bit healthier and coming around. That was a statement game for the Eagles. Now, as they said, 5-2, I'm back on the bandwagon as a fan saying, oh, you know what? They might be a player in the NFC because if they would have lost that game yesterday, I would have said as a fan, Ben, you know what? They're an okay football team. Let's see how it plays out. Maybe they get to the playoffs, but now you can look at that and say, you know what? They're a contender in the NFC.
Third best price to win the conference crown at 6-1 behind Detroit, who we'll talk about in just a bit. An absolute wagon right now in the Motor City, and the 49ers, who do have some optimism after knocking off the Cowboys, as they should have last night at home. Who do we think Vic Fangio likes in that defensive backfield? Oh, man. That 40th overall pick out of Iowa, Cooper DeJean, just making play after play. And Quinyon Mitchell, the opening round draft pick for Philadelphia, locked down on the other side. This Birds team playing good football as of this moment. The Bengals, DRS, entered week number 8, despite losing their first 3 games of the year at 3-4 with a minus money price to see the playoffs. Now it's minus money for the Bengals to miss at minus 144. Since he is 0-4 both straight up and against the spread at home this year. Here's the only silver lining for Cincinnati, who's now 3-5. Maybe even the Jets at 2-6 or the Dolphins at 2-5. There's only 7 teams right now with a winning record in the AFC, and that includes the Chargers and the Broncos. If you expect those younger teams, or at least with first-year or second-year head coaches, despite their experience, to fall off just a little bit down the home stretch.
Here's the thing with the Bengals, too, because you might still be looking, and you're right, like they're in 9th place, you just have to get to 7th. But at the same time, let me understand this, too. Love Jamar Chase. T. Higgins' quadricep injury. That wasn't just a game he's missing on Sunday. He's probably in danger of missing multiple weeks. That defense isn't going to get any better. You will beat the Raiders next week at home and say, hey, we have a chance to make the playoffs, but then the lights start to get turned out again as you're going to play at the Ravens, at the Chargers, and the Steelers over the next 3 weeks. Oh, they could win those games. They haven't won them to start, basically. The only teams that you're beating for Cincinnati are the dregs of the NFL. Have a heartbeat on the other side. Cincinnati's not beating you. Don't buy into the Bengals right now as a buy low opportunity. That team stinks.
That is really well said, DRS. About both the Jets, the Bengals, maybe even the Finns. We expect you to win football games. Maybe the odds makers look like you have a chance to win the football game. And yet, through 8 weeks, you have proven time and again you do not win football games that you are expected to. Since he was a 2.5-point home favorite, even without T. Higgins yesterday. Plenty more around the NFL when Hour 2 starts next.